There's a phrase you'll often see attached to yarn and wool products that feels reassuring the moment you read it. And that is mulesing-free. And for a lot of knitters and wool enthusiasts, that label signals, okay, this is the ethical choice. But sometimes labels like that tell us what to think before ever explaining why. And when that happens, we're not really making informed decisions, we're reacting to the fear of getting it wrong. And today, I want to slow that down. Hi, my name is Taylor, and today I want to talk to you about the practice of mulesing, what it is, why it exists, why it's controversial, and how understanding the system behind it can help knitters and wool enthusiasts alike make choices with clarity instead of anxiety. This won't be graphic. This won't be alarmist, and I'm not here to persuade you. I just want to explain what often gets left out. So what exactly is mulesing? And to do this today, I'm going to use this sheep I have. It's really a perfect example to help me show this to you. This is going to be what helps me illustrate mulesing for you in a way that is accessible, okay? So we have a sheep here. And this area of the sheep behind or under its tail flap, this is called the breech area of the sheep. Now, when mulesing is done, it's often done in lambs, and what it is strips of skin are removed from the breech area of the sheep so that when the skin heals, it flattens and smooths, and there are no wrinkles there that might trap moisture. So it's to help smooth out this area, and also because the skin has been removed, wool and fleece and fiber does not grow there. And so it keeps that area free of anything that would trap moisture, leading to a very severe health issue that, if not treated and prevented, can be incredibly fatal and spread very fast across sheep populations. That condition is called flystrike, and mulesing was developed to reduce that very problem. Flystrike is a very serious condition where blowflies lay their eggs in damp wool and moist skin folds. The eggs hatch and the larvae can cause serious injury very quickly if untreated. In humid environments with aggressive fly populations and large-scale grazing, flystrike can spread quickly and be fatal. So mulesing developed in response to a real and documented animal health issue. Without context, it sounds shocking. With context, it becomes part of a larger equation, and that equation is biological, environmental, and commercial. Flystrike is a biological risk. Climate is environmental, but breeding decisions, that's commercial. Modern merino wool characteristics, especially extremely fine fiber and very heavy fleece, are a result of centuries of selective breeding to meet textile demand. Early merino sheep from Spain already produced fine wool, and later breeding in places like Australia intentionally amplified those traits because finer, softer fleece commanded higher prices in global markets. Over time, some strains developed heavier fleece and more skin folds. Those folds are coveted because they increase wool production because there's more surface area for the fleece to develop. But they also increase susceptibility to moisture retention and subsequently flystrike in high-risk climates. But does mulesing actually reduce flystrike? Historically, yes. Field data from Australia shows that heavily wrinkled merino sheep that underwent mulesing experienced significantly lower rates of breech flystrike compared to sheep of the same breed who did not undergo mulesing. That effectiveness is part of why the practice became widespread in certain regions. At the same time, scientific studies show and practice shows that the procedure itself causes measurable stress to the animal. And this is why pain relief is now widely used and increasingly required in modern practice. So the welfare equation contains two realities. Flystrike is painful and potentially fatal. The preventative procedure also causes pain and discomfort. Both are true. Now, mulesing is not standard procedure worldwide, and this is important. It's primarily associated with a few factors. Heavily wrinkled merino strains of sheep, hot, humid climates, high seasonal fly pressure, very large-scale grazing systems. Australia sits at the intersection of all of those factors. But let's zoom out a minute. Other countries with large sheep populations are managing fly strike differently, but again, context matters if we're going to be comparing these areas to Australia. For example, New Zealand, a neighboring country to Australia, but far smaller. New Zealand officially phased out mulesing in 2018, but they did not simply eliminate the practice and hope for the best. They spent decades selectively breeding plainer-bodied sheep with less skin folds. They rely on shearing schedules, crutching, which essentially means just making sure to remove all of the wool in this area on a surface level, and they can just use shearing techniques to do this. And targeted parasite control during high-risk seasons. Genetics shifted and management adapted. Uruguay and Argentina, for example, also produce mulesing-free wool. They manage fly strike through selective breeding against heavy wrinkled traits, climate-adapted systems, strategic insect control, and closer flock monitoring. And here in the United States, mulesing is not practiced as part of standard sheep husbandry. For example, the yarn that I offer in the Fiber for the People yarn shop as part of my born, shorn, and dyed flagship yarn is a Merino Rambouillet cross from northern Nevada. Rambouillet sheep are generally plainer bodied than more heavily wrinkled Merino breeds. And the high desert climate has lower fly pressure. Fly strike risk is managed through breeding, shearing schedules, close monitoring, and targeted treatment when necessary. So when someone asks why not just use those methods everywhere, the answer comes down to environment and scale. What works in cooler climates with plainer-bodied sheep does not automatically scale to humid regions producing ultra-fine merino at global volume. Now, this is where things get especially interesting. When we talk about wool fineness, we measure it by microns. The lower the micron number, the finer and softer the fiber. And the higher the micron number, the more toothy or coarse the fiber might feel to the touch. So when you see something like 15 to 18 microns, that's ultra fine merino. That is the buttery, silky, almost cashmere soft that feels incredibly smooth against bare skin. And here's the important part and why it matters in today's conversation about mulesing. The difference between 18 microns and 21 microns is not the difference between luxury and sandpaper. It's subtle. But from a breeding perspective, that small shift can represent fewer skin folds, lower fly strike susceptibility, and different management needs. A few microns can reflect a much larger system shift. And this is where you come in. There is nothing wrong with loving ultra-fine merino. It's beautiful. It exists because people value it. But if the conversation matters to you, if you're thinking about breeding systems and management practices, one quiet way to engage with that is to simply broaden what you look for. You might explore Rambouillet, Polwarth, Donny Merino, medium fine merino lines, regional wool breeds in the 20 to 24 micron range, not because they are morally superior, but because they sometimes represent slightly different breeding priorities. That's preference. And markets respond to preference. Mulesing did not emerge in isolation. It developed within a commercial system that rewarded ultra-fine softness at scale. Luxury markets prize softness. Performance apparel prizes softness. Hand knitting markets prize softness. Softness commands higher prices. Higher prices incentivize breeding for finer fiber. Certain finer fiber strains correlate with heavily wrinkled traits. Wrinkled traits increase fly strike susceptibility. And now we are back at the beginning. Supply responds to demand. Demand shapes breeding. Breeding shapes management. Management introduces trade-offs. That's the loop. Understanding mulesing does not tell you what to buy. It gives you clarity. It is a firm boundary for you. You now know where it is most associated and why. If your takeaway is broader, that the traits we prioritize influence agricultural systems, that's valid too. Sometimes the most ethical shift is not rejecting wool, it's broadening what we value in it. If this video has you thinking more about what we reward in the wool market, I'd like to invite you to check out a video that I have over on Patreon as a short accompaniment to this one. It's basically a little wool culture reset. We're talking softness, microns, patterns, and how wool's original superpower was never luxury, it was performance. It's a cozy fiber nerd out that sits right next to today's conversation, without turning into a second version of it. Now, today's video isn't about defending or condemning. It's about seeing the system clearly. A label can be a helpful starting point, but it can't carry the whole story. Ethics rarely live inside a single word or phrase on a yarn band or a clothing label. I hope you feel oriented, like you can look at mulesing-free and understand what it does and doesn't tell you. Like you can hold two truths at once. Flystrike is a serious welfare issue, and prevention methods bring their own questions. And if your personal boundary is still, nope, not for me, that is completely valid. The point is not to change your mind. The point is to help you make the choice on purpose and with intention and understanding of the context. Because when we understand the trade-offs, we stop reacting and start choosing. Thank you so much for being here and being willing to have a nuanced conversation about the fiber we all love so much. You guys, this was fun. Definitely check out the Patreon if you'd like to go a little deeper into something like a side quest. I don't know. But until next time, happy knitting, happy making, happy whatever it is that you're doing. Take care, be well, and I will see you soon. Bye.